everybody, thanks for watching. And just a quick reminder that the flash drive sale is still available. There are two separate sales. One of them includes the lifetime membership to the Merkabah Academy website, as well as the digital downloads free for the year. The other one just includes the flash drive and the digital downloads, all 56. So I want to get in this video in response to my last video. A lot of people had questions. I'm getting a lot of new Christians coming to the site. So that means you guys have been doing your job. Definitely recommending a lot of people to the channel. A lot of the emails I've been getting lately has been from Christians who just looking, to have questions answered. A lot of people have a lot of questions, a lot of things they want to know about Christianity. Us being conscious, we forget, because to us, it's a no-brainer. To us, it's like, how can you not figure this out right now? How can you be so naive and stupid as to believe the Bible? Like, where are you? Where were you when this whole consciousness movement has been, brewing? And for the most part, when you run into somebody that's Christian, it's like, where have you been? What are you doing with yourself? So we got to remember and be tolerant that there's a lot of people who just don't understand. They don't get the movement. They don't know anything about, melanin or consciousness and all that. A lot of people, as I said in the last video, are mixing things together based off of what they heard. And we got to realize that a lot of people just follow, what's popular and what's trending, especially when it comes to, religion. A lot of people are not really doing their homework. But, a lot of people are just simply interpreting the Bible based off popular opinion. They're not digging into the book. They're not reading the book. They're going off of, what the culture seems to respond to as far as the Bible. Case in point, a lot of people believe that you can just, keep repenting, even though the Bible says you can't. But you can find verses in the Bible that says, like, no matter how many times you sin, you just repent, you'll be fine. So that deals into the whole contradiction part of the Bible, in which, if you understand esoterically, it has to do with duality. It's not really a contradiction. It's just giving you, a dual nature of right and wrong, which the book is about duality, as I get into. But a lot of people just interpret the Bible, for themselves. So you have to look at it, when people do a book signing, people write a book, they do a book signing, and they take questions about the book, just in case something is unclear to the reader. Now, the author's present, and he can basically clarify any, problems with the book. That we can't do that with the Bible. So we look to preachers, we look to pastors, or what have you, to clarify the book, but they themselves did not write the book either. So they give you an interpretation. Now, since we can't, bring forth the people that gave us the book and wrote the book and ask them, is this supposed to be taken literal? Or are we supposed to figure some things out within it? We have to go off of what the book is saying. Now, everybody's going to have their interpretation and say, well, this is an esoteric meaning, or this is a parable, which Jesus talks about in the Bible, to what is being said. And the problem with that is, there are things that fit for the religion, there are things that don't. So even if you take it face value, or if you try to use the parable, it contradicts the rest of the book, so it's tough to do that. So what people are doing is interpreting the book to fit their lifestyle. And that's the issue I talked about before, and that's one of the things that a lot of people take offense to. Clear as day, your Bible tells you not to do what the world is doing, not to involve yourself in anything that deals with sin. And that's the one thing you can agree upon as a Christian. And you can say, it's okay for me to be on Facebook, it's okay for me to be on YouTube, it's okay for me to do these things that is surrounded by sin. But if the book is clearly against you sinning, you shouldn't indulge in any of those things. And that's the issue. Most Christians are just interpreting the book to fit their lifestyle so they can sin and not feel guilty about it. Plain and simple. So when you show people verses like this, like I showed with the women, about what the Bible says about women, about clothes you wear, jewelry, how your hair is supposed to be, how you're not supposed to be talking in church, they're looking for a different explanation to explain that. Or some people just don't address it at all. Your preacher definitely don't want to address it because he don't want to offend you and have you running out of his church. So the book, as Frederick Douglass said, it's left up to interpretation. And you have to deal with or accept, who's interpreting the book. And if you're doing that with a preacher, then you're going by his interpretation which an interpretation is really attached to an agenda. You know, the agenda of the interpretation is for him to get money or, get his point across or what have you. It's up to you to accept that. But if you don't dig into the book and read it and really understand what it's talking about, then you're basically left at the mercy of his interpretation. Now, with all that being said, screw it. Because it's not really, for you to accept the interpretation of the book. It's really for you to understand the history of the book and what the book is really speaking to. And that's the trick, because you're going into the Bible and you're reading the book, and what you're trying to get out of it is not what you're supposed to be getting out of the book. You're reading a book that's designed for you to get caught up in the book and get caught up in the stories. And as long as you're being caught up in these stories and what's being said, you're not looking outside the book to figure out the truth. So this is why a lot of people go with Bible history and not real history. There's a lot of people who have no clue about actual history, just the Bible history and what has been interpreted to them, as far as Moses giving us the books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, everything that we think supposed to be history, but according to the book. But when you go back and look at real history, it's not there. And you have to ask yourself those questions. Real proven history that we can prove, that we know existed, versus history from a book that is not proven, that requires faith for you to believe in. Which one are you going to go to? And because the Bible is what it is, a lot of people are just not going to question it. They're going to take it, from the interpretation of the preacher or from their own interpretation and run with that. And again, to answer a lot of the questions I've been getting, if you're gonna take the Bible, using your own interpretation of what you believe the book is saying, rather than what the book is actually saying, then how can you call yourself a Bible believer when you're not really believing in exactly what the book is saying? You're believing in your own interpretation of what has been told to you from someone else or from your own thoughts. So when we go to Revelations, and Revelation says don't add or take away from the book, you have some people that believe, well, that's only meant for the book of Revelations, not for the entire Bible. That wouldn't make sense if people could just add and take away from any book or chapter in there and make it say what they want to say. It's clearly, it would be meant for the entire book. We also have to understand Revelations was, given to us in the 5th century. Revelations wasn't added to the Bible to the 4th or 5th century AD. So you already have, manuscripts being comprised before Revelations was even added. And we know that scribes added things to the book. So that verse could be something that was added to basically tell people, not to add or take away from the book. So what you guys are lacking in the understanding of the Bible is not just the interpretation of what should we believe or what should we follow. It's the actual history of the book itself. So tracing it back, a lot of people are going to have that question, where did the book come from? Where did it start? And I talk about this in my videos about the Septuagint. If your preacher can't tell you about the Septuagint, he doesn't have any real history on the book. A lot of them have no clue about these older manuscripts and these books that predate the King James Version. We all grew up off the King James Version, and this is what you need to be studying. What is up with the King James Version? Why we had so many Bibles before the King James Version? Why is this version different from other versions? What was added? What was taken away? Stuff that can be proven. And then you would see, one, the validity of the book is in question. So when I talked about in the last video about that point, a lot of people, I read a lot of comments, a lot of people sent emails about the book being the inspired word of God and perfect, and you can't prove that. That's when you can't prove, one. And two, is already told to you that it's not. We can already see with the older manuscripts the errors and mistakes. So we would have to say that the King James Version is a perfect version, but remember, they took out the Apocrypha from the King James Version, and we had it without the Apocrypha for a long time. They had things changed in the book. Even though Revelation said don't add or take away nothing, don't change nothing. They changed things even with the book of Revelations. So this is the King James Version that you're reading, that you have a changed translation. And if you're reading NIV or ESV or what have you, all of those are changed, they're updated to basically fit modern times. So the book has been added to, it has had things taken away. And these are things you got to question when you're talking about the validity of the book. So as I said, it's a lot of new people who come into the channel. I try to be considerate of that. I don't always like to say, well, I have a video on that, I have a video on that. I have over 600 videos on YouTube, and I have over 56 DVDs, and I don't like to always have to point people in those directions. But we've been through a lot of this information. A lot of people are really ready to move on and really ready to just understand a lot more different things. And for the most part, people who have all the videos now, who've been through them all, I mean, like I said, if you've seen them all, then you have a really good understanding of everything, and you should probably be good as far as questions. But for people coming out of Christianity, and it's something that I can really relate to or understand, because nobody was there for me, and I was a diehard Christian, going in. When I was going out and joining the military and traveling, I was a diehard Christian, and it was tough, and I understand how tough it is to deal with this stuff and get rid of Jesus, and to even think about doing such a thing. You have to really be solidified in your information and knowledge to do that, because there's always going to be that doubt and worry, which is why I encourage people to get the information to learn it. And the Bible tells you this for a reason, that you shall know the truth and it'll make you free. Because once you know the truth, it will definitely make you free of all the guilt and worry and doubt and thinking that you're going to go to hell and burn and everything like that. So it's important, to really grasp this. And the fact that a lot of people are willing to even step foot, in a channel like this and try to understand is a big step. And I think a lot of people are on their way. But I want to answer a couple questions. Okay, first question says, if the Bible is wrong, what makes you think that the books you have read are right? If the white man is trying to deceive us, wouldn't they do so with all information that pertains to us? And this is a question that I've received 1,000 times. The thing is this, and I said this before, it's something called research. Anything that's involving our money or anything that's important to us, we go do the research. The Bible is the only thing we don't research. So, like I said, if a person says to you, all right, do you got change for 100, right? And you're not going to take his word that he has the freaking $100 bill. You ain't going to give him the money and say, okay, I'll let you go in the house and bring it back to me. You want to see that 100 first. You're going to lift it up. You're going to examine it and make sure it's real before you dish out that change. And we do that with our money. We do that with what people tell us. Somebody tell you something that sounds bogus. All right, prove it. Oh yeah, prove it. Somebody tell you something crazy. Okay, prove it. Let me see the proof. We say that with everything else. We want to see proof. We want facts. We want everything. Evidence, what have you. Somebody told you that your wife was cheating. Yeah, well, you got to show me proof. You can't just say something like that. But when it comes to the Bible, we just let it slide. Okay. Preacher said this. TV said that. History Channel said this. It must be true. Nobody does the research. So that's the difference. I don't take everything that I read in books as fact. Research, they give you primary sources in the book. You can go back and look and you can trace it. And it's the thing with having real proven history to back up what we're talking about, because you can go there and see the stuff. You can find multiple sources on it. You can find facts and proof to back up what you're researching. You can't do that with the Bible. There's nothing to back it up. So it's not a matter of, did they doctor the books? You got to remember this. They didn't teach us this stuff in school. There's nobody out giving you R.A. Swallow the Lubbock's books in high school or college. There's nobody out there giving you Gerald Massey or George G.M. James or Dr. Ben or Dr. Clark. Nobody is giving you that stuff. This is something you had to figure out on your own, or you got to figure out. A lot of you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but you got to find this stuff. These people who wrote books years ago on so much information that'll blow your mind. You're not going to hear about it in school, meaning they didn't want you to know about it because it's truth. But the Bible, was taught to us in slavery. We were in chains, being told about this God that loves us and has mercy and all that kind of stuff while we was being enslaved for hundreds of years. So these are the questions you got to think about and ask yourself. Why would they, put us in bondage and give us this book and teach us about this book and do so many unspeakable crazy things that really basically go against the book, and then for hundreds of years later after we get free still do so many un-Christian like things, not just to us but to people around the world, and we still supposed to believe this book that came from a people who basically enslaved us and keeping us oppressed ever since. These are the questions you got to ask yourself. Now, for people who do the research and look at other books, as I said, they do the research. They research the authors, they research the books. They go and go out and do field research. I've traveled, I've been to Egypt, I've been to Israel, I've been to Tibet, I've been to most of these religious countries or spiritual countries I've been to. And I've seen what's there. And from that, you can begin to break down and understand where a lot of the stuff from the Bible came from, where they got it from, and what they're trying to convey to you as far as the hidden meaning in the book. So, I get the question a lot. A lot of people just think, well, it's just so much information out there. Where do I start? Where do I begin? You begin with the understanding that the book that you are so engaged in and reading, the Bible, is not what you think it is. You can't accept it as fact. You can't go in the Bible to prove that the Bible is true. So a lot of times when I question a lot of these religious people, who told you that? Where do you get your information from? Well, it's in the Bible. It's in a book. Well, what does that mean? I can look in, Snow White and Seven Dwarfs and say, this is fact. I can look in a Spider-Man comic and say, well, no, this is fact. It's real. These people exist. There's no proof to back up either one. And it's the same with the Bible. And you have to put it in that same boat and understand that the religion requires faith because there's no proof. So now next question says, I think you are wrong to speak against the Bible because out of respect, there are many people who depend on the Bible and have been emotionally invested in it. Don't you think you should respect those people's faiths and beliefs? Okay, so another question I get a lot. And, the answer to that is, you got to remember that it wasn't the conscious community that was really jumping out and saying, you're going to go to hell or you're going to go to some desolate place and you're going to be cursed and all this stuff if you don't believe what we believe. Since we can remember, it's always been the preachers and the Bible believers coming out saying you're going to burn, you're going to go to hell, you're going to have to deal with this, you're not going to have a good life. God is going to punish you. Satan is, in your head and controlling you. This is what we've been hearing. It's never been conscious people coming out and saying do this or that. We have always heard and been disrespected by the religious community about us having questions. Now, for the most part, people were just having questions. And a lot of people didn't know where to go and where to look, myself included at the time, to get these answers. So we started to look. And we have been disrespected and we have been talked down to and called names and all kinds of stuff for a long time. And then now, once we find our answers and get our truth and try to speak out against it or speak up about it, we somehow disrespecting Christians. And the crazy part is Christians are disrespecting themselves and contradicting themselves and making themselves look stupid by one, saying that they believe in something to a point where they're willing to get into a fist fight with somebody, trade blows, call them all kinds of names and disgusting things that goes against their religion, just because somebody answered some questions or said something that they could not handle. So the respect has to be mutual, and it has not been. A lot of people who are conscious when they speak out about this information, we do so arrogantly because it feels good to do so, because I feel like we're dispelling something that has been crippling our people for a long time. And when you do something like that, it's a sort of euphoria that goes with it. It's a good feeling to just be able to just put that information out to dispel this negative energy that has been put out to our people. Because let's keep it real. At the end of the day, you guys have no proof. None of you are following the book in truth. All these Christians saying they doing this, they get offended when we say something, but none of you are actually following the book. I can see if you had Christians that was living by the book, following the religion and doing everything they're supposed to be doing, and living righteous and living the way the book tells you to live, then it would be like, okay, well, these people are serious about the book. But you can't, be going to the club and watching stuff you ain't supposed to be watching all over social media, twerking and all this craziness, and then talk about some Jesus, talking about some I'm a Christian. It don't fit. You disrespect yourself with that. You make yourself look stupid with that. And it's not, us. It's not on us to decide whether, to give you guys or give all Christians respect for their belief. That's up to you. Respect is earned. And if you live in the way your book tells you to live, which is impossible to do, by the way, so it's not ever going to be a true Christian when you understand what the book is talking about. It's impossible. And that's the point of the book. Be perfect as your Heavenly Father is perfect. What person is perfect? Can't be perfect. You can't not sin. You're sinning by being on YouTube. You're sinning by being on social media. And again, that's going to be interpreted by people who believe that, the book is saying something else because they want it to fit their lifestyle. Now, as far as the people who depend on the book, depend on it how? What are you doing in your life? What is the book doing for you in your life that you have to depend on it? Is it paying your bills? Is it healing your kids? Is it healing the sick around the world? Is it healing racism and starving children in another country? How are people dependent on a book that is doing absolutely nothing? Without that book, people have done so much. Without that book, people are successful, people are rich, people are doing amazing things without that book. So it's not as if we can sit there and prove that because of the book, the world is a better place. Because of the book, you as a Christian are doing well, you have a good life, you have everything you want. We can't prove that it's because of the book or because of the religion that's possible. It's because your own work, your own doing, the time and effort you put into yourself, and you stop bullshitting. You did what you're supposed to do, and you got to where you are. Yeah, there's some Christians that are doing good, and they want to attribute all their hard work and efforts and hard work of other people who helped them along the way. They want to attribute that to a book or to God. Not give the people or themselves the credit, but give it to a book. And I think that's crazy when you take that energy away from, where it should be placed and put it in just a damn book. When countless other people have, they're struggling and they're trying to deal with the book and they're going through hard times and the book is not helping them. What about those people? So, the respect part is, for a lot of us conscious people, when we look at it, it's a joke. It's a joke. We look at these people like, you guys are literally clowns sitting in church acting like something that you're not. And we don't have to respect it. We don't have to. But I think people should. I myself, I'm tolerant of it because I've been there and understand what a lot of you guys are going through because I was there. And was nobody there for me to give me these answers or to answer these questions or to tell me anything. I had to put it together. And it's something you just got to do. Like, you got to do that in here. You got to really put it together, and it's like you did the research in here personally, and you get it. Forget what somebody telling you, forget what I'm telling you, you did it, and and that's really the only way. I can only point you in the directions, I can give you all the information, but until you really go back and research it, or, if it make enough sense to you, the way I put it, for you to accept it, until that happens, you're still going to be bound by the book. You're still going to have questions, and that's what I don't want to happen. I don't want people going through all this, and then it's like, this information sounds good, but I still have doubts. The more you dig, the more research you do, the more you look into the situation, the doubts will go away, and it's just going to be knowing. That's all it's going to be left. You're going to know, and then you're going to be free. All right, so next question. It says, who gave us the Bible if God did not? What man so long ago could come up with such a story? God created you and wakes us up every morning. I don't understand how something so good for us can be bad. And it's funny how people ask the same questions or how people have the same type of thought process when it comes to the Bible. It's a question that I always get. It's one of those things that's based upon your teaching and what you have been brought up, to know. A lot of people can't fathom creation outside of the Bible because a lot of people haven't been taught that. A lot of people have no clue about atoms and electrons or energy or anything like that. They just think that we just was created from the dust of the ground and woman came from a man's rib, because the book said it. And you had a system perpetuate that for thousands of years. And that's it. It's just what has been known and what people believe, and a lot of people don't dig into science or don't even want to know, what could possibly be different from the book. Now, the good part about that question is, who gave us the Bible? And, if you want to research that, something I talk about as well, is all you got to do is just trace back the history of the Bible. There's some shit you can Google. Go back to the history of the Bible, and I talk about all the Bibles that came before the King James Version, because you're a Christian now, you're going off the King James Version. You wasn't taught off any of the older books. So you got to remember that. You're taught off a different version, and you got to understand how that version even came to be, and the books that was comprised to give us that version, and the whole story behind that as well. So, when you trace that back, again, you'll come to the Septuagint. And the Septuagint, given to us by the Greeks, is basically where the start of the Bible comes from. It's where it's proven to come from. Now, you can go by the Bible itself and with the whole Moses story and the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and all Leviticus and all those stories and say, well, I'm just going to go by the Bible. And in that case, it's no point in even asking the question where it came from if you're going to just accept what the book is telling you when the book itself is in question. But historically, what we can prove, the Greeks gave it to us. The Greeks gave us the book. So, people talk about the Ethiopian Bible, as I said before, the whole Abba-Garama Bible. Abba-Garama was a Byzantine royal who came into the monastery in Ethiopia and basically, supposedly wrote the book in one day. You got to remember, the book he used, the manuscript he used to write that book out or do the translation into Ge'ez, which is the language of the Ethiopians, was a Greek manuscript. So he used the Greek manuscript to give you the Ethiopian Bible, to give us the Abba-Garama Bible in the first place. So that's another thing you got to understand. And as far as we know and can prove, there's no book proven that predates the Septuagint. It's nothing. It's only what's been written and what has been said to have existed, but we never had it. There's no proof of it. Now, when you understand the history that goes along with all that, you'll see how it fits and how it's suspect that it does with the Greeks. And it just so happens that the book was comprised and put together by these Hebrews in Egypt. So, it's something you got to think about. It's not one of those things where it's going to take you a long time to figure this stuff out. As soon as you start really digging into the history and start looking back at the history of, where this book traces back to, you'll see it there. You'll see the many different books, the codices, all the different codexes. It's so many different things. You got to ask yourself, that question: why so many books? What's up with that? Why so many different books? Why so many different interpretations? How come the codices are so different? How come they were all written in Greek? Where's the Hebrew manuscripts? How come we have the Masoretic text? How come they separated? What is that? How come we don't have a Hebrew manuscript that predates the Septuagint Greek? Everybody was reading the Bible in Greek. And then Latin when it was switched over. But you got to remember, it had to be translated from a Greek first, because there wasn't a Latin manuscript before the Greek ones. A lot of other questions you got to really ask before you really dig into this book. Now, as far as the stories and how could people come up with these stories so long ago, that again, a lot of people think old means obsolete or old means like primitive. When, again, you got to remember so many amazing civilizations that predate modern times. All the wonders of the world that predate modern times, that predate the technology that we know. The Egyptian civilization, a lot of other civilizations that supposedly had advanced technology that we can't replicate today. We can't replicate those pyramids. So when we say old or so long ago, we got to remember we're talking about a more spiritual, more sophisticated, more advanced people than us. So understand, they knew about atoms. They knew about science and everything like that long before we did. And, we used it in a spiritual sense. It wasn't for material use such as it is today. So we got to keep that in mind and understand that they wasn't primitive back then. They wasn't old. These people knew so much. And mostly, almost everything that we have today, that we know about today, was basically stolen from there. Was already being used back then in some capacity that we reworked, because you have a materialistic mind at work that's been shaping, the centuries. It's been about materialism. Everything has been going back to materialism and not spirituality. Now, as far as, God waking us up in the morning and everything, metaphor for the sun. You hear it all the time. Oh, God wakes you up. Now the sun wakes you up. I talked about this before as well. So when you have sun, hit your eyelids, the first instance of sun begins the awakening process. So you have that light that basically hits your eyelid and travels through your cornea, your retina, what have you, to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain that basically, hits your pineal gland and allows for melatonin to begin to detract from your bloodstream. So the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is activated by the sun, is basically regulating the amount of melatonin that releases in your bloodstream that makes you, sleepy or awake. So basically, at night, there's a certain amount of melatonin that is released in the bloodstream because the sun is going down, and the sun going down begins that process. So you get sleepy at night. Waking up is a reverse process. Once the sun hits, it's starting to detract the amount of melatonin released in the blood, and you begin to awake. So when they say God wakes you up, that's the metaphor it's talking about, the sun. And you've seen so many different metaphors and people giving you information about the sun being God. That's what it's talking about on an esoteric level. And as you go through my videos, you'll basically understand that part and what that's really about. This probably was too much information, but that's basically what it means. God is not waking you up. God is not putting you to sleep. God is not putting the souls in mankind or what have you. It's crazy when you think about it. And it's one of the things you're going to have to learn to do as a Christian is think outside the box and think critically. Be real critical about your thinking and stop using the excuse that God is mysterious, or we're not supposed to question dumb shit that God do, or, it's just out of our, realm of understanding. It's common sense, plain and simple. So, as I always say, if God was waking us up and putting the souls in mankind, and why waste the time? Why take the time to put the soul into a woman and have her lose her baby before it's even born? That doesn't make sense, And we got to stop thinking like that. We got to start thinking a lot more critically and logically when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And once you start doing that, then you'll see, a lot of stuff will make more sense, and the whole aspect of the Bible is, it'll start to fade away. Also, as far as the Bible being a good book, if you read the book, it's definitely not. So much murder in that book. There's rape in that book, child molestation in that book, infanticide, babies being killed. It's crazy. It's not a good book. It's not a book you can read and just say this is all good about, sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops. It's just not. And not to mention the fact that it condones slavery. And the fact that when you look at it, as a black person, what has the book ever done for us? There's so many churches that are in the hood that are there, surrounded by empowered people, and it's nothing that's being done. So if you have so many people in the church praying constantly every Sunday, a lot of these people are supposed to be, God's children and saved and holy and what have you, how come nothing is being done about their situation? And, they will have you believe that because you are a Christian, you're supposed to just be thankful for what you got and live in poverty and not try to become wealthy and not try to succeed. That sounds like a doctrine of somebody who wants you to stay where you are, who don't want you to rival them or challenge them in wealth. And this is what we're doing. We are not rivaling or challenging. We don't support each other. We don't help each other because, some people look at the faith, and some people think that because they're a good person, good things are going to happen for them, so they don't really get up and do anything. They don't want to become entrepreneurs. They think it's going to happen in God's time. God is going to provide for them. And this is where we are. So, to answer that question, and that's a lot you can just really go into with that question. What has the book done for us? Really, God is not waking me up. God is not responsible for, me having what I have or you having what you have. You are. And it's just that simple. If God gave us the book, he would have preserved the book. God in the Bible destroys so much, does so many different things, destroy whole civilizations of people because they go against his commandments and laws. So you would think a guy who is that adamant about people following his wishes would make sure that we get his book, or will make sure that, we're following it. And it's not being done. So, these questions are These questions are basically indicative of what I come to expect from Christians and that Christian thinking and that mindset. And I've heard a lot more crazier ones than this. So, okay, so final question. It says, I've been through all the religions and I find them to be confusing. If the Bible is wrong and these other religious books are wrong, what are we supposed to worship? Another question I get a lot. Same questions all the time I get from Christians. They ask the same type of questions. And the thing is, when you really think about it, why would you want to worship anything? Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to lower yourself to a position of worship from worshiping something that's done nothing for you, at all, that you can actually point to improve? Now, it would be different if we can just, we can prove that this God exists and he's been doing these things and he's out there. Like, when you read in the Old Testament, God was coming down. God was sending angels. They was destroying shit. They was doing a lot. So the proof was there, which makes it more far-fetched to believe that these people could be actually looking upon, Moses parting the sea, Moses healing people that was bitten by the serpent, all the miracles that the Israelites was going through. It's hard to believe that they can see all this and still go against, the God. So I know, for a lot of Christians, if they seen Jesus, if some miracles, really real miracles, I ain't talking about stuff that, science could have done or, something we can prove that's outside of the Bible, about the stuff that's been happening like in the Old Testament. Like if people today seeing stuff like that happen, there's no way they wouldn't follow the book. So the whole thing is, how can it be that, you praying, nothing happens? People have been praying, on their knees for their lives and been killed. A lot of people was praying that those towers wouldn't fall down with them in it. A lot of people was praying they wouldn't drown on the damn Titanic, freeze to death. People been praying all the time and nothing is happening. So that should tell you something. The whole question is, why is it that, people continue to follow something that they know is not working for them? What has been working for you, your mom. She raised you, she made you who you are. You yourself, you got to where you are because of the hard work that you put in. These are the people you should worship. If you want to worship anything, worship your mom, your parents, yourself. Put that energy in you because it's going to come back out. You'll get it back in a form of work, in a form of things that's going to actually manifest in your life and actually help you out. Why worship something that is not proven, that has not been proven to do anything for you? And, so to really be easy with the question, nothing but yourself. Nothing but what you see has been working for you. And, like I said, why would you want to worship anything that's not helping you out? Why you want to put that time and energy in something that's not proven? And basically, you're putting it in a book. You're putting it in a book that, this is bullshit. That people said work, that people said do this. And it's tough because a lot of times people get down and stuff happen. And it's hard for people to look other places to get help. So people who are not conscious, who don't understand, the first thing they're going to do is drop to their knees and, worship, ask for help. Not understanding that no matter how much you do that, at the end of the day, you're going to have to change the problem or somebody's going to have to change it for you. It's crazy. So it's like you go into a restaurant and, your friend's paying for your food. But then you get your food and you pray and you thank God. You pray over your food, bless the food or what have you, but your friend's paying for the food, because you don't got no money. And if you didn't, if he didn't pay, you wouldn't eat. But you thank him, but you give praise and glory to something else, So worship is just meditation when you really understand what it's talking about. You meditating and you going within yourself to program yourself to give you what you want and to give you what you're praying for. So when you understand that concept and metaphor, it's real easy to put it together, figure out exactly what you need to do and who you really need to be seeking. And it's exactly what the Bible tells you, exactly what Jesus tells you. You need to be seeking, knowledge within yourself and looking within. So now I can understand how it's hard for you guys to come to this channel and other channels and hear the information that people put out against your religion. As I talk about with norepinephrine, the same type of energy that is produced when a person is fighting for their life is produced when a person is arguing about their religion. So arguments turn into murders because that same type of chemical, is created to basically put you in that fight or flight situation. It's the same type of thing that is produced when you're arguing about religion. So a lot of people get really defensive and they feel some type of way, and it's a normal thing to do. At the end of the day, you got to look in the mirror, you got to be real with yourself, because that's basically what it comes down to. When it's just you alone, when you look in that mirror and say, is this shit real? Is this something I really need to be following? What is it really doing for me? What am I sacrificing because of this religion that's harming me? And I've seen this so many times. I've seen people sacrifice a lot because they thought they was going against the religion, and they were just scared. They didn't have the knowledge to understand that it's not going to be a problem. So what you should do for yourself is research. Go through my videos, definitely watch them. Go through other videos, watch them. Research, get books, understand what you getting yourself into, and what you need to know to make you feel comfortable to move on without that book. Now, when I say without that book, I mean without the attachment to it. I couldn't function without my Bible. I need that book. That book has everything you need to know is in there. If you know how to decode it and get the esoteric meaning out of it, you'll see that it's the perfect book to help you, move forward with your research and your study and everything. I'm not always available for questions, and I've been trying to, these last couple videos, try to answer a lot of the questions that's been piling up for a long time, especially as it pertains to this subject, because, like I said, I was there, and I know how tough it is to make that jump out of Christianity into consciousness and to be comfortable with it. And what it takes is knowledge. It just takes you understanding the truth and being able to see it and have it backed up and make sense for you. Once that happens, everything will just open up for you. We start to see a lot more clear. Things will be a lot more easy for you to understand and get, and it'll make a lot more sense, once you start to get to that point. But I thank you guys for, watching. Thanks to all the new people who's been subscribing, a lot of Christians who's been coming, and I've been looking at, people conversing in the comment section. I know y'all can't keep it clean, but damn, some good conversations in there. Just keep studying, keep doing the research. It's the best information I can give you, and I'll try to continue to answer questions as I go on. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. Thanks to everybody who purchased and support and became a member of the upcoming site. We're going to get more into that as I go on. And see you guys next video. Thanks for watching.